So I'm just going to explore a thought. I heard it the other day. You know, up in Flin Flon, I loved the geography. I really loved the First Nations people, the Cree people. They were so welcoming and inviting. Like, as soon as I would meet them, they were willing to interact with me and interact with me more. I was invited to a home after talking for only minutes with the one man. He invited me to his family home, introduced me to his wife and a very close family friend of theirs. And then for the very next day, he was inviting me over to see their, I'm not sure if Kyle competed, or maybe it's more intimate, but he invited me to see his wife's jingle regalia for her powwow competitions. But the rest of Flin Flon, I felt really judged. You know, just a single guy, no kids, no dog, no family, no connections. My judo sensei, he was able to, I think, see me for who I am, see past whatever, and he really tried to get me integrated and connected with other people, help me to get a job. But you know, I think other people could just see that maybe I wasn't a good fit, maybe I wasn't ready. And I appreciate that, you know. I'm back in Regina. I'm doing much better. Just got a kind of, I wouldn't say a totally different outlook on life, but just a refreshed outlook, like a restored outlook. The metaphor for this is, you know, when they have those old paintings, you can see it, but you don't really realize how old and grimy, not old, but how grimy the painting had become until they restore it and you can see the vibrancy of those colors. Well, I'm not meaning to say I can see vibrant colors. What I'm just offering is that metaphor, that analogy of restoration. A very good friend of mine yesterday, it wasn't yesterday, it was Wednesday, we were talking and I was sharing my update and just saying, you know, I'm probably going to be looking, because I like working in restaurant and I have experience at that. Maybe there's a career there. I don't know. I want there to be a career there, but I want to do other things too. So it's what I would call maybe the burden of ability or the burden of ambition. But what my friend said, because I was saying, no, maybe I just, you know, McDonald's, you know, do that. And well, she piped up. She said, well, Flin Flon, you wanted to be a teaching assistant or a substitute teacher. In Flin Flon, we're always hurting for teachers. Standing Buffalo First Nation. And my first reaction was like, forget that. Like, I appreciate the invitation, but I was negative to the comment. And what I verbalized was, I don't want to do the commute anymore. I don't want to drive that far. You know, I was really negative to basically what was an invitation to her community to say, hey, like, Flin Flon doesn't want you, we'll take you. And look at how I responded. So definitely let's pause for some humor about maybe it wasn't Flin Flon, right? But I got, you know, after a couple days, I've been given the opportunity to just reflect more on that idea and get to reflect on the merits of that opportunity, right? That, hey, I would get to work as a teaching assistant. Forget the commute. I'd get to work as a teaching assistant. You know, I get to actually help the littles. I get to sit with them, right? They're having a bad day. You just get to sit beside them, right? That's huge for kids. That's huge for people, like adults. You know, build that trust, be worthy of that trust. And I would get to learn so much, right? Just still interacting with kids on a daily basis again. Kids have so much to teach us. And I've had that chance after 2 days to pause and really reflect and go, yeah, that I can laugh at myself first, like, oh man, your first reaction, I don't want to drive that far. Which I'm allowed to say, but it's a useful piece of education for myself that to be cautious of and to be aware of, you know, that instead of saying anything, especially if someone's commenting on, hey, that thing you wanted to do, I could probably help you do it, or you could probably do that, you know, here, to say, wow, I hadn't thought of that, like, thank you, and just leave it at that. Even, like, if you're going to say anything, say something positive. It doesn't have to be nice, but at least needs to be positive. And I've been able to reflect more on it, and I can really just see the merits of it, right? And what's nice is we're going into the Christmas break, so I wouldn't want to be hired. I wouldn't want anything to start now. I wouldn't want to start that kind of relationship with kids now. It would be, and I'm not quite set up for it, but where I'm going with this is, well, what about come January, right? Could I live in Regina and drive out every day to Standing Buffalo First Nation? If you've never made the drive, it's worth doing at least once. I would say that much. It's a different feeling as you approach the First Nation. It's like everything starts to slow down. And they don't just say what the speed limit is. For instance, they also describe why, like pedestrians, speed limit. And I can't remember if it's 20 or 30, right? They don't just post the rules, speed limit. They also remind you of why and what to look for, and maybe just paying some honor and respect to, like, people have been bumped and injured and scared and killed here because people were driving too fast. So please, there are humans here. Operate your machine slower. And that speaks to me, you know, in a positive way that encourages me. I feel more comfortable and at home in that way of communicating. So that's where I'm headed out now, unrelated to that job offer, but I just get to hang out with that same friend that suggested it. And it's a good question to ask, is just, okay, you're heading out to Standing Buffalo First Nation. Have you been there before? Yes. How did you feel the first time? It was a really well spent day, and I felt calm the whole time I was there, and just grateful that, like, this is a nice, like, just relaxing place. Okay, fair enough. Now you're going out there again today. How do you feel about that? Well, I'm in Regina during rush hour traffic, so I feel a little bit, you know, elevated. It's something I like, so I'm excited in that sense. But as I'm getting closer and closer, I'm feeling that calm, that it's in the country. It's a slower, calmer place. It's a First Nation, so it's families there. It's slower, sure there's just that better balance with humans and nature, and it's a calming comfort. That's how I feel, and I can imagine it's a challenge, not a challenge, but I mean it's a thought exercise. Is what I'm describing. It's a thought exercise now that this would be the road that I'm driving on now, not at this time, but this would be the road that I would be driving, the route I would be driving every day if I was to do that career piece of being a teaching assistant at Standing Buffalo First Nation, right? Monday to Friday, driving out to First Nation at, I don't know what time I'd have to leave, 7 o'clock or something, and then coming back at, I don't know what time school gets out. I'd be coming back into Regina at 5 or 5:30, so it's, I guess, a chance to do a little bit of research and pay attention to that and consider it. You know, would I feel more fulfilled than working at a McDonald's or being a sous chef, or what kind of stresses would I experience? Which type of stresses would I be more resilient to? And socially, where would I be making a bigger impact? Would I feel that this is a task and a job that is more suited to me as opposed to a job that really, you know, after a few minutes or hours of training, pretty much anyone could do it. And then there's no judgment or harm in that. But it's important for me to reflect on these points. Do I want to feel like a robot assembling sandwiches? Sometimes, yes. Do I want to feel like a human interacting with other humans? Sometimes, no. And that's important for me to consider, to reflect on. This almost feels like a Toastmaster speech. So what about you? How do you like to feel, and how do you feel in your current job? Do you feel like a robot? Do you want to feel like a robot? Well, if you don't want to feel like a robot, join your local Toastmasters club. Do you feel human, and do you want to interact with other humans? And if you're at that point in your job, you don't anymore, right off the hop, good on you for seeing it and recognizing it. Definitely know you are not alone. You are in, or a better way to put it, I think, at times, is you are in good company. Many people feel as you do. Not everybody has the wherewithal, the courage, the desire, the risk tolerance to make a change at whatever stage in their life. But I would say definitely do not discount, or framing positively, definitely pay attention to the effect that the stresses of your job has on you, your family, and your outlook on life, your outlook on everything. Is your job slowly turning you into one of those grimy paintings, and is it time that you got a little restoration and a refreshment? Things to think about. Thank you so much for listening. Adam Toastmaster.